Well, the use of scientific expertise in government policymaking was crucial during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. This emerged from a symposium in Durban attended by some of the world's leading minds in science for CAPRISA's 20th anniversary. CAPRISA, of course, is the Center for the AIDS Program of Research in South Africa and has been at the forefront of research into HIV and AIDS. Epidemiologists reflected on how healthcare and governments had to function symbiotically to end global pandemics. A senior reporter Jade Paulser filed this package.
Marking 2 decades of medical science excellence, the centre was established in 2002 during the height of the HIV epidemic. It's renowned internationally for outstanding evidence-based research through epidemiological pathogenesis and treatment studies. It has a global reputation for research excellence in infectious diseases. During the COVID-19 pandemic, CAPRISA focused on research on the coronavirus variants.
And we started providing the first evidence that it wasn't as clinically serious as other variants. About a month later, we published, put this preprint out, where we showed that clinically Omicron was much less severe than the other variants. And of course, 6 weeks later, Alex Segal and his team produced the evidence to show that actually Omicron escapes Pfizer vaccination antibodies. And so now we knew that even those who were vaccinated were going to get infected with Omicron, as they did.
Epidemiologists say, as the coronavirus started to wreak havoc in different parts of the world, governments turned to scientists for the data, knowledge and technology necessary to fight the new pandemic.
We have to protect science and invest in science, because the only reason that you and I are here now and that the world has recovered is because of the remarkable scientific progress that were achieved during this COVID-19 pandemic. Within 4 weeks, we knew what the sequence of the virus was, and that allowed us to produce a test. When I mean us, I mean the scientific community. Within 1 year, a vaccine was produced, tested, and administered. That is unprecedented in the history of infectious diseases.
The COVID-19 pandemic, scientists say, has been a wake-up call for governments and society.
I think the pandemic has shown governments around the world that when we talk about health and we talk about a disease and we talk about a pandemic, we're talking about something that has major social and economic consequences. It has to be a whole of society response, and I think that's been made really, really clear. It's a challenge to bring that home to everyone, but the message has been heard, and I think now we're seeing people start to prepare for the next pandemic and to make sure that we do the right thing in terms of what our school policies are going to be, what our work policies are going to be, how we're going to respond early so that we don't get into the situation we got to in what people call like a once-in-a-century pandemic. It's not a once-in-a-century pandemic. There'll be another faster than that.
With Abdul Karim at the helm, CAPRISA's research led to a landmark clinical trial in 2010 that provided the initial evidence that antiretrovirals prevent sexual transmission of HIV. Its research demonstrated that tenofovir gel prevents HIV infection and genital herpes in women. This laid the foundation for providing pre-exposure prophylaxis or PrEP as an HIV prevention approach. Young women have the highest rates of HIV in Africa, which accounts for 70% of the global HIV burden.
In trying to follow the chains of transmission, we're trying to identify where will most of the infections occur. And what we unraveled is the cycle of HIV transmission. And what is the cycle? Men in their late 20s and early 30s were the main source of infection in young girls, teenage girls particularly. That age difference between 8 and 10 years. So now we got some idea of what the main source of HIV is in young girls. But what was happening was when these young girls grow up and they reach their 30s, they are now finding their partners and they are having sex with men of a similar age. So these women now in their late 20s, early 30s are infecting men of the same age.
Government has also lauded CAPRISA's role in leading South Africa's fight against the burden of disease.
There was a time when Prof. Karim's name was unanimous with COVID-19. We believe that CAPRISA epitomizes how great our country's research can be, and indeed we're one of the best known research organizations and a role model, not only in the country but in the continent, but also, I believe, in various parts of the world.
The symposium also saw the launch of Abdul Karim's debut book, Standing Up for Science, a novel on his personal account from the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic, with lessons for future scientists. Jade Polser, SABC News, Durban.